Welcome back to my channel. Today I'd love to talk about this particular begonia, and they call it a hand begonia or a palm leaf begonia or a palmate begonia. Now the thing is that why they call it a palm leaf begonia is because the leaves almost look like palm trees as they droop downwards. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice and I'm the red soil gardener. Let's learn how to propagate this hand begonia so that you can have a lot of hand begonias, and they're great, by the way, as indoor plants. So propagation for this hand begonia is you could do a leaf propagation using the leaf, but I will save that for another day. But today I'm going to show you how to actually propagate this hand begonia, but just using the rhizome. So what I'm going to do is actually go down there and cut a bit of the rhizome, and that's what we're going to work with. So what we have done is, as I mentioned earlier, is that when you are propagating this plant, our hand begonia, you could actually use the stem or you go for the rhizome. So this is what I have, but I'm going to put it aside for a minute because let's look at the soil requirement. Now, basically what you need, like with all these begonias that do have rhizomes, is that basically you need a well-draining soil. And once the water passes through, it doesn't touch the rhizome because it is very delicate, and if you have water around it, you will get root rot. So a well-drained soil. And if you need to actually keep the moisture, I would actually put a bit of compost on top or mulch it on top in order for the moisture to remain in the soil. The next thing is, what is the light requirement? And again, as I said, is that this particular plant is very sturdy and it is drought resistant. Now in Central America or in Mexico, sometimes you do find this plant sort of sitting out there and leaning against a tree. But basically it is drought resistant, not so much like the other begonias. So the water requirement is that if you do have it as an indoor plant, I would actually do a finger test and then check if you do need water. But once you do go into winter, if you have it as an indoor plant, remember that during the winter period you water less. Again, if you look at a begonia, and it is sort of tropical plant, is that it does need some bit of humidity, and especially if you do have it as an indoor plant, like in winter when the air is very dry, you've got the radiators working, you could actually have a pebble tray or keep all these plants together so you get the circulation of humidity going around. Now, light requirement. What you need is a bright indirect light. The thing is, as I mentioned before, I do get the morning sun there and they seem to do really well. But again, it doesn't have a full sun the whole day. So if you're planting it, for example, in your garden in the Northern Hemisphere, you can have it in on your patio or on the ground, but in a sort of semi-shaded, double light, situation. However, as you go into fall, remember it does like direct, indirect sun. Just move it slightly more into a bit of sunlight, because if you don't, is that basically the plant is not getting sufficient sunlight. Now, overwintering is basically, remember it does have a rhizome, and so basically anything under 12 degrees Celsius, it won't survive outside. So in a situation like this, you could actually either dig it up and then you go into your overwinter storage procedure, Or if it is an indoor plant, you do water it less and slightly move it a bit more closer to the window so that it can get a bit of sun. However, don't move it around, because again, these lovely little baby leaves will be searching for the sun and they could drop off. Now, the other thing which I don't have at the moment, it does flower like all begonias. It does have a pink flower and with a yellow bit of heart in the middle. And usually this flower does last a long time, up to 3 months. So even as you have it in your garden and it may not, you assume it doesn't flower, it will surprise you with these beautiful blooms of pinkish color. Now, if we go back to this, which is a great example, is that this is where you get the scarring. This is where the leaf, if I may just use that as an example, is attached. And once it does fall off, you get all this scarring. And I think these scarrings don't make the trunk a bit more exciting. And look at all those lovely speckles here, which I always think it just adds character to that trunk. Now, the other thing is, you've noticed here, is that the leaf is actually coming out of the rhizome. But the amazing thing about this plant is that the roots come out of the rhizome, the flower stem will come out of the rhizome, and the leaves. So basically, it is an all-round plant, and this is the most important part of the plant. So now we get down to propagation. Now these are the ones I propagated. So all I did was take that, and actually what I did is I just cut it. So that is what I'm going to propagate. Now these here, I'd actually started with a rhizome like this, with no leaves, and slowly as it developed, it started getting its own leaves. So what I want to do, because I haven't really observed this, is I'm going to lift it and see if we have rooting. And remember what we said is the rooting, the flower and the leaf all come from the rhizome. So here we go. And that's where, oh my gosh. So all this here is where the rooting is. As we can see, it all comes from the base of the rhizome. And I have a lot of rooting here. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm actually just going to take it. This is my well-drained soil, and what I did this time is I put a bit of sandy, sort of river sand, in order to get a really good drainage. So what I'm going to do with this baby here is I'm just going to put it in. And the thing about these begonias is you don't need a deep pot, because everything is really, it loves, the roots don't go that deep. And they like to be on the surface. So what I'm going to do here is actually just make a hole and put my lovely roots back in there, just like that. And so with something like this, I could actually take it indoors and just nurture it, and it will grow, and then move it into a bigger pot and maybe have an indoor hand begonia. So I'm just going to put this one here. Now this is another propagation I did. Now if you noticed with that propagation, I didn't submerge the whole rhizome in the soil, but this one I did. I just wanted to know how it works, and as we see, the propagation still works even if you don't submerge the whole rhizome under the soil. Now this one is, I submerged it in the soil, so I'm just going to pull it out. So this one being submerged in the soil is actually, all the rooting happened at the bottom of the rhizome. So now what I'm going to do with this one, again, similar to what I did with the other one, is I'm going to put it in this container again. But this container, as I said, I did put a bit of grit in there just to make it really well draining. So I'm just going to make a hole and submerge the whole plant in there. And there we are. These are the propagations I've done. They are a success. They have started having its leaves, and as it grows I will move it into a bigger pot, and as it grows bigger I will decide whether I'm having it outdoors or whether I'm having indoors. So that's that. So now let me put this one aside. So again, as I mentioned, here we are, we're going to propagate these. Now I have a choice to actually remove these, and let's just get rid of that like that. We've got a bit of scarring now, and then there's a little baby here. I'm going to remove that. So what I'm going to do is simply, now we have these two, so what I'm going to simply do is, this has got grit, just move it around a bit, and I've already moistened this soil, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to, and it's not a deep bowl, because as we know is they don't like deep bowls. You don't need that. So what I'm going to do is actually just stick it here like that, and then cover it like that, and then go this side and stick the other one in here just like this. I'm going to take it and I'm just going to lightly cover it. And because we know that with the rhizomes, they don't want water around their structure, because we don't want to get the rhizome going into rot. And I had watered these before, so I'm not going to touch it at all for a few days and get it to dry up. Now what I'm going to do here is, to finish this propagation here, I'm just simply going to take my Ziploc bag and I'm just going to stick this in here, and then I'm going to seal it. Now this is a method that you sort of give it a greenhouse effect, and it's going to get hot and steamy in there, and then once every 2 days I will open it and let it breathe, and also remove, because you will get a lot of moisture on top of the plastic. Get rid of that moisture and then you continue, and it just speeds up the propagation. So once it's zip-locked, that's it. So here we have a propagation of the rhizome, and we've zip-locked it because we want to speed up the propagation. And here we have two success stories where one plant, one bit of the trunk was slightly raised, but we did see the rooting happening in one particular spot, and then one was submerged and we saw that the rooting went along the trunk. So thank you, fellow gardeners. Thank you so much for joining me. And do get one of these plants because they're very, very sturdy. And they do have a flower, and also they do grow tall. So you could have it in the corner in your living room and have this beautiful dramatic of this begonia. So thank you so much. Do follow us on Instagram. We're always there. We're always there to answer and to talk. And also thank you for also sending me all those lovely comments, and I do always try to answer them, and I love it. It's very cheering. And don't forget to like and share, and also press that notification button and subscribe to our channel, because we're introducing a lot of new plants, a lot of interesting videos. And summer is coming up, and do try some of those lovely plants that we've shown you to propagate. So thank you so much and have a lovely day.